we're going to talk about the 5 characters that I regret upgrading, and then I'm going to compare my list of characters that I regret with Valley Flying. What's up, my guy?
What is up, man? I hope these aren't the same 5 characters, because we looked at our war and we didn't use the same on offense or defense, or very similar characters on offense and defense. So, yes, I'm curious to see who you got.
Okay, so this is something that I suggest everybody doing, firstly, is what I do, and I think you do the same thing. So, you said 8 teams on defense, right?
Yes.
And then typically you have 10 attacks, right? And so I have allocated 10 attacks and 8, so that's 90 characters. So this is my Alliance War screen where I click on my name. So you go into the tab, where you can see all of your alliance mates, and then you just click on the screen. Maybe people don't know about this screen, but you go into participation down here in the bottom left, and then you find your name and you click on your name, and then
look at that number 1, baby.
Yeah, probably. So here's the deal. At the end of it, so I've done my 10 attacks. I've played. So I always look at who's left over and like who can I use? Who can I use better in different situations? And who am I? Who could I place more efficiently for the next war, right? Like, for example, I can see right here I've got Ultron. It's like, okay, but I sometimes use Ultron on certain teams for certain matchups. Quite often I use him with Power Armor. I replace Iron Man. I put Ultron. Fine. Something like that, right?
Yeah.
So Ultron's out of waste. And then Squirrel Girl's another person. I might put her on a team, kind of counter the Brotherhood 2.0. Fine. Loki's a character that I can use. Like, no regrets. But I'm finding that the same characters are showing up at the top of this list of characters that I'm like, whoops, I wish I didn't have them this upgraded, and I'm not using them in Wars at all, because Wars is 90 characters, right? And if they're not making the type 90, then why do I have them at gear tier 14, right?
Yeah. Especially if you're not taking them into a dark dimension or using them in arena, which is 5 characters in raids, which is less than 90.
So these are my characters that I regret upgrading. Number 1 right now is Nick Fury.
Okay. Just a permanent legendary character.
Yeah.
Available very early on for new players, but as you get towards the end game, losing value.
Yeah, and so a lot of people have been building this Inhumans team with Coulson, right? And for a minute, people were using Nick Fury on that team. But the problem with using Nick Fury is that he just is straight up food for symbiotes, and symbiotes just run over that team. It's like anybody but Nick Fury's better on that team. I've seen people put Silver Surfer there. I see people putting Shield Medic there. I see people putting Ms. Marvel there. But literally anything is better there than Nick Fury. You know what I'm talking about, right? Because it makes symbiotes. Yeah. Symbiotes can then run over that team, right? And Nick Fury is just not helpful there.
Well, the other thing, not only gives all those minions that die very early for the symbiotes, feeding them the turn meter, you're also getting shield security. That screws up Yo-Yo.
Yes.
So that's another issue with Nick Fury.
Yeah. So, run, don't walk. Do not use Nick Fury with Inhumans because it's food for symbiotes and Carnage, and it's also, when Nick Fury brings out the shield security, it counteracts Yo-Yo's passive, because then there's suddenly a protector on the board and it no longer works. So I am not using Nick Fury at all, and you know what? He's not even good at Blitz.
Yep, and I don't even use him in the skill lanes in Doom. So I don't know. I don't know where you would use him as you build up some of these other characters nowadays.
Yeah. So if I could have a 6 red gear tier 14, I could rattle off 30 or 40 other characters I'd rather have than Nick Fury. Oh my God, not good. All right, so number 2 on my list, and I've talked about this at length, and so I'm not going to talk about it long, but I took Punisher into DD4, and skill military is not good, so he's not good there. And then the reason why I took him into DD4 is because of his passive help symbiote Spider-Man and Antivenom, but it turns out that for skill City, I would have been better off doing Night Nurse, and I don't even use this guy on defense or use him anywhere. I mean, I just don't use him anywhere. I suppose I could put him on a team somewhere inside of Alliance War, but I don't think I can't find a place for this guy. I wish I hadn't have upgraded him.
Well, here's the thing. They already said they're going to be doing stuff with skill military in 5.3. hopefully that comes a usable team, and hopefully you don't regret it when 5.3 rolls around. But yeah, as of now, skill military sucks. And I thank you for doing that for DD4, because I was thinking of bringing him in because he's so cheap as far as those Gear 15 pieces. Yeah. But based on what you said and how little value he provides in Dark Dimension 4 and after that, I couldn't invest resources.
I believe he's probably more helpful in DD4 than Night Nurse, but Night Nurse, I'm getting so much use in her in the Shadowlands and the skill lanes in Doom. My goodness. I mean, she's just a mandatory character in my opinion. So I'm using I wish I would have done Night Nurse instead of Punisher for sure. Next on the list is Scientist Supreme.
Ooh. She was on one of the meta teams for Ultima 7 when it first came out. Remember that? Before we had the symbiotes, before we had a lot of these, before the Black Order, she was a part of the meta for the Ultima 7 raid team. You shake your head. Go back and watch the video. She was very good at one time.
I know she was, but at the same time, it's like, oh my goodness, not good anymore. It's been not a mess. No. So, and I have a 6 red on her too. So I think what happens on some of these characters is that, I get high red stars, and so I justify upgrading them, and maybe they get used, and it's just like, boy, no, not using that. And then I'm not using her in war at all on defense or offense. And her as a standalone character, she's kind of problematic because of her ultimate really only works well with aim, doesn't really work with other teams. Yeah. I mean, you don't want to be giving your own team negative effects. Trust me. No. I'm always hopeful that there be some sort of way of using her. Someone suggested that they may be using her with a Captain Marvel, because Captain Marvel will clear the negative effects turn 1. But I don't know, man. I don't see it. Maybe I don't even know if the turn meter works right on that. That's just. I just can't find a place for her, and I'm not happy with that at all. Dead weight, benched, trash, in my opinion. Well, not trash, but I can't use her. I
still see her in defense sometimes, but there's better characters than the Scientist Supreme because of that ultimate. It's so damaging to everybody in the field, the enemies, your own team. And as Guardians are falling off, that's the aim. The aim had kind of a resurgence with Aimtron being encountered the Asgardians, but I don't even see full Asgardians anymore. So aim's value is done. Now there's better characters for Ultima 7 and better characters for war defense and war offense.
Yep. All right, next on the list is Sif and Heimdall, but specifically Sif because I upgraded her a bunch. And I want to talk about this because I think this is helpful for today. As we see these hybrid teams come to light, then please do not be using Hela on defense and war. She's a severe liability to Jubilee's passive and Carnage passive, and even X-23 to a lesser extent. She's just
White Tiger as well.
White Tiger as well, yeah. So and she's so amazing on offense. And Asgardians can be used on offense, or you can do some hybrid teams with maybe Hela Natural, you Supernatural. Yeah. You can even squeeze in Loki and Hela with Zemo and Red Skull and Hydra Grenadier. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do with them on offense and counter a lot of teams. That leaves Sif and Heimdall on the bench. And so this is what I'm going to say right now, is I look at a team like Astonishing X-Men, which is amazing today, right?
Yes.
Where is that team going to be in the future, let's say a year from now, in respect to what characters am I going to be using all the time, perhaps in a hybrid team, and which characters are going to be benched like Sif and Heimdall? And I'm going to tell you that it makes me wonder if I should not be putting a lot of resources in characters like Kitty and Iceman. You know what I'm saying? Is they kind of feel
I do.
They kind of feel like the Sif and the Heimdall on those teams. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. The only difference I would say with the Asgardians and Axemen is Asgardians was meant to be a war defense team. The Asgardians the Axemen are meant to be a raid team. So if you're not using them in the raids in the mutant lanes and Dark and Doom right now, you're not going to use them more when you build them up more, and especially if you're using hybrid Axemen. So yeah, if there's you don't need to upgrade Iceman and Kitty Pryde if you're not even using the raids right now, but definitely not for war, because I think that's going to end up being a hybrid team down the road as well.
All right, and the next two, and I just want to say that this list right here is a lot of characters here that I have I'm not having a lot of value. I want to give some exceptions to Loki, Ultron, Squirrel Girl, but largely a lot of these characters, maybe an exception to Ms. Marvel, but a lot of these characters I'm just not using anywhere.
Elsa.
Elsa, Storm, Sabertooth. These are kind of, if you want to see the bottom characters of the game, we're getting to the dregs right here. You want to see the worst characters of the game?
We don't even need to talk about these. These are like no-brainers for people.
These, in my opinion, a lot of these characters down here are the worst characters in the game. You can kind of see where they're at. But as far as these are probably the last two, which is one. Shield Medic and Shield Trooper.
Oh, that's sad. Those
Shield
are
Trooper.
sad. Shield Trooper, you put a lot into him.
Well, both of them are at 14, and they're not good. And I really wish I wouldn't have. That was a mistake from more than a year ago into DD3, and they were just not helpful. But yeah, Shield's not great. And the other thing too is like I'm thinking about teams that are getting dropped off of like once good teams, like Sabertooth. That's an amazing team, but Sabertooth is usually often subbed out on Marauders, and I see people saying that they're taking Sabertooth to 15 for Dark Dimension 4, and I'm gonna like, please don't do that. Please don't do that. Yeah, I mean I understand he's cheap, but you will not. He is getting yanked off teams today, the same way that Storm is getting yanked off teams. Like Storm is just not getting used on X-Men. A lot of people are using other things, or I'm actually using Doom. Instead of Storm.
I did a Sabertooth to 15. Right now I don't regret it, but maybe 3-4 months down the road when Doom is I've gotten Dr. Doom and I was like, maybe I'll regret it.
I gotta tell you, I mean, I'm sorry that you took Doom to Sabertooth to 15.
Sabertooth, yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's a bad call. I really do.
I think long term it is, but short term at the time it got me into DD4. It would have been a few more weeks if I didn't do Sabertooth at that time.
I think Sabertooth is the next Shield Trooper and Shield Medic. I really do.
I think you're right. That's why I say maybe 3 months. I'm like, oh, why did I do that? But as of now, it helped me. But yeah, it's. Know what you're doing. If you know you're not going to be using him later on.
Right. So we're going to take a look at your 5 characters that you regret upgrading on your channel. Anything you want to say before we go?
Thankfully, there are some different characters. It's not all the same. So nice.
A lot of them are the same but different. Hey,
there's one overlap. One overlap. A lot of different ones.
Yeah, and I know you did Sabertooth, and I'm not trying to like.
He's not on the list. He's not on the list.
I would say, man, I just like I don't, man. I would definitely. My suggestion for DD4 is take characters that are useful outside of DD4, and for me, I'm not using Sabertooth anywhere, so I'm glad I didn't take Sabertooth to 15 at all, and I know that was there. All right, head over to Valley Flying's channel, and we'll take a look at his roster. All right, we'll see you over there.